Durst the worst?
Durst the worst.
Durst the worst.
Durst the worst.
Durst the worst.
Oh, Durst the worst.
Durst is the worst.
Durst the worst.
Durst the worst.
Durst the worst?
Durst the worst.
Durst the worst.
Reprimanded for spitting them facts and shit. Colorado teacher sent to re-education training for suggesting to teen that trans youth regret transitioning. Truth? So yeah, basically the gist of this is a Colorado teacher had to undergo some lefty re-education procedure because in the midst of having a little back and forth via email with the student was basically asking for some leeway. Oh, I failed your class. I'm short on some points or whatever. Can you give me an extension or can you give blah, blah, blah? He said, yeah, I'll grant you that. But also, in addition to that, a lot of people, this is a transgender student, apparently, whatever the fuck that means. And the teacher was like, you know, a lot of these people kind of regret doing this. They regret transitioning. They wish they could detransition, but a lot of them can't. You know, all that good stuff, all that truth, right? And so, in response to that, the school administration reprimanded him and made him undergo re-education as per the lefty transgender LGBT ideology. So these are among the propaganda films that he had to watch, and so I just thought we could all cringe along together and watch this. We'll see what it's like. What is a gender-inclusive school? Look at this, like, Son of Sam. First of all, yeah, like, Son of Sam, like, serial killer kind of figure. What does this guy have to say? Let's check it out.
My name's Joel Baum, and I'm Senior Director for Professional
Hey,
Development
Joel. Ooh, what happened there,
Gender
Joel?
Spectrum. For too many of our students, when it comes to gender, they do feel invisible at school. And yet we know there are a lot of schools that are now taking very specific steps to make sure that's not the case. Over the next few minutes, I'd like to tell you both what a gender-inclusive school is and some of the specific ways that schools
It's grooming
to become one.
It's grooming. Before we even start, we all know that it's grooming, and they're projecting this creepy ideology, this John Money, genital mutilation ideology onto little kids. And oh, look, lo and behold, like, what, several thousand times more kids are identifying as transgender compared to even like 7 years ago, 12 years ago. Right. It's a social contagion. So gender inclusive schools, it means that they're just pumping the kids' heads with this crap. So this is what the teacher had to watch, a staunchly conservative teacher that basically just had an email back and forth like, hey, you know, here's some info about a lot of people that regret their transition. He was forced to watch, like, these other ones, like Avery's story, Mom, I'm Not a Girl, Raising a Transgender Child, and what is this one? So dude was forced to undergo this kind of crap. What the fuck?
So just what do we mean by a gender-inclusive school? These are unique
creepy
places where the gender of every student is seen, safe, and supported. These schools,
unless you're straight white male,
specific steps to make sure that students are allowed to express and identify their gender authentically, and that in doing so, they will not face mistreatment or discrimination.
Dude, the tranny stuff is the mistreatment.
These schools do certain things. That includes recognizing the gender diversity of all students, interrupting binary notions of gender, normalizing gender diversity, and questioning limited portrayals of gender.
So one-sided.
Schools support students' processes of reflection about their own gender, and also teach empathy and respect.
Do you get respected if you disagree with this whole thing and you're outspoken about it, or are you not normalized? Then you'd not be normalizing gender diversity. You'd be failing to interrupt binary notions of gender, which is gobbledygook. Gender is fake and made up in terms of, I can just identify as whatever I want. Gender, as we all know, those of us that are not insane, we all know that gender is a grammatical issue with languages like, Spanish, French, German, that sort of thing. The nouns have genders, and the verbs have to be conjugated and all that dumb stuff, depending on the tense and the gender of the noun in the sentence. It's not, Bob, a biological male, thinks that he's or feels like he is a woman, so therefore he is. Like, that's not, that notion is complete gobbledygook. Obviously, like, I don't need to go through that spiel. Just, it's common sense should kick in. But so if I say that in school, I'm probably not. In particular, if I'm a faculty member and I say that, I'm gonna have to undergo this. So, like, one-sided bullshit.
In order to reach these goals,
These people need to be
we have found that
re-educated.
there are 4 important entry points to consider in working towards a gender-inclusive school. These are the internal,
Ugh.
institutional, interpersonal, and instructional entry
Systemic
points.
systems,
And together,
structural
these
institutions.
will form the strategy for the school to become a more welcoming place for all students' gender. The first entry point is the internal entry point. This entry point includes learning about gender through trainings and reading. It also includes opportunities to reflect on your own gender and think about how your experiences may be impacting the work you do with your students. The second entry point is the institutional entry point. And these are the various ways that through structures and other processes on campus, you demonstrate your commitment to gender diversity. These include things like policies and procedures outlining protections. They include signage that demonstrates a recognition of gender diversity, as well as visual images that demonstrate gender being.
Oh, look at these primitive cultures that have like 9 million genders. We should probably imitate. What is this fucking? Oh man, Mace Windu meets Shao Kahn or meets Kratos or some shit like that. Man, this is absurd. This is just absurd. Like, so other cultures exist, therefore we should do what? I don't understand. We should just emulate inferior cultures? I don't understand. Why would we do that? Like, do people that think rationally cannot have normal lives anymore? Like, this is such a fucking fucked up clown world.
Shown in different ways across the world.
This is insanity. Who cares about these primitive third world?
Specifically designed to support the needs of transgender and gender expansive students, as well as processes for things like name changes that allow a student's authentic identity to be recognized.
This Milwaukee public schools, this stuff is being done in Wisconsin too. Of course, I mean, we're a shit lib state. Damn, dude. MPS is just terrible. It's crumbling. Most of the kids barely even know how to read. I think like half of them don't even show up. I did crappy in school, but at least I knew how to read by the time I was kindergarten, first grade, whatever. Fairly competently. There are graduating high school kids that don't even know, or whatever, dropping out high school kids that don't even know how to speak or read English. But they're prioritizing this gender crap, literally because they're just trying to turn your kids gay and trans. Like, that's literally what it is.
Other aspects
It's
include
creepy.
things like gender-inclusive facilities. Not only having those, but then having
where your kid can get diddled in the bathroom, and then the school district can cover it up, just like Loudoun County. Yeah. And then the cops can fucking roll the angry parents at the school board meeting. Yeah.
as to why you have them.
But allow it all to happen.
Other opportunities in this entry point include dress codes, websites and other promotional materials, professional development, and parent education. The third entry point is the interpersonal entry point. These are literally the ways in which we communicate with one another and use those teachable moments to convey.
They're forcing you to take on
gender
just
diversity.
newspeak
These interpersonal
terms.
interactions are designed to provide a counter-narrative to the binary understandings of gender that permeate most societies. They include using gender-inclusive language, such as all genders, and terms like non-binary and cisgender.
One thing I do that's gender neutral too is I say calling all readers, calling all writers. I address what they're doing at the time, and I call them that, like as
Who gives a
professional
dude?
whatevers.
You're just making people insane. You think you're doing something awesome and revolutionary or whatever, and that, I mean, you may be doing something revolutionary or radical and psycho, but it's not moving us forward to a place where we want to be. The older way was better. The binary was better. Patriarchy is better. We have like decades, nay, centuries of indications and data that is the case. Yet you want to undo that because you're just shitty people. Like, you just want to undo what works and replace it with something that is convoluted, crazy, confusing, does not work, is very groomy, and you want to shove it in kids' faces at really young ages. Like, what is this? This has to be like a kindergarten class or first grade class, dude. Calling all readers. What do you think about the gender non-binary? This is the kind of shit that you only would have heard like radical people at college, or, you know, in some hipstery kind of Portlandia-esque neighborhood. You'd only hear those creepazoids saying this kind of stuff. Now kids are going to be saying it.
That keeps it gender.
Oh, great. Hopefully they tell them to go fuck themselves in class.
Stereotypes and discrimination based on gender. They examine various messages about gender and what is being said about how gender is done. They demonstrate that everyone is a work in progress and that it's okay to be working to improve your understandings of gender. And finally, these interpersonal interactions establish very clear expectations about respecting the gender diversity of every student. Another aspect of the interpersonal entry point is having the ability and knowledge to discuss gender and complicated issues.
Yeah, so none of this existed 5 years ago, you know what I mean? Like, I repeat this. I think it bears repeating as often as possible. This stuff is very trendy. It did not exist when I was in high school. I was in high school in the mid-2000s, right? So this stuff did not exist. Not a single mention of pronouns, gender, non-binary, transgender, genderqueer, Zers, none of that existed. And the mid-2000s, relatively speaking, were not that far away. 2004, yeah, that's like a decade and a half ago, right? So and this stuff started to pop up in like 2012. And very inorganically was pumped into almost every institution that exists. It's inescapable. These people are they're just parasites, really. They produce nothing of value. They just force this fucking line on people that are unwitting. They just kind of want to go along and have a job and a life, and a lot of these people that are having this forced on them artificially just have to go along to get along, and it's really just deleterious and damaging.
With colleagues and community.
It's delusional,
the final
really.
Entry point is the instructional entry point. And these are the specific ways teaching and learning is used to instill
indoctrinating and brainwashing
the diversity of gender. Instructional entry points come in two forms. They can be overt, explicit lessons focused on gender, or bring gender into content in a more integrated fashion. There are a growing number of lesson plans and other materials that specifically take on gender as a topic to build students' understanding. Another direct
They're getting the kids indoctrinated
is the use
so
of
early
literature to convey different ideas and stories about the gender of young people.
Gender.
Whether for little kids or older students, there's a growing number of great resources that you can use. Then there's integrated instruction. Integrated instruction is designed to bring the lens of gender into work that you're already doing with your students. This can include things like examples on spelling tests, such as festive. He planned a festive party for his dolls. Competitive. She became very competitive when he played football.
So feminizing the boys and then masculinizing the girls. Yeah. That's what feminism is. That's what this gender ideology is. It's to weaken the boys, turn them into little girls, and to make the girls like obnoxious, like, snap back, don't need no man, fish bicycle. It's nightmare fuel, dude. Oh, God. Will the kids have any capacity to even resist this? Or are they going to be, again, just like muzzled up and put in the little plastic dividers at their desks? Are they even going to have the ability to speak out against this? You know that it's an uphill battle for these people to start a YouTube channel and thrive on it. Hit me up on New Tech links in description. But the few kids that are smart enough to know that this is dumb, they're probably just gonna have to go along to get along too. They have no real means to resist this anymore. I mean, this ain't 2015 energy or 2016 energy. We gotta revive that shit somehow.
You may very well have a student in that moment
creepy,
say, wait a minute,
feminizing.
Boys don't play with dolls, girls don't play football, and it's a great opportunity to remind students that there are lots of different ways that we can be boys, girls, or anything else.
Yeah, but we shouldn't really cater to the exception to the rule all the time. That's just social engineering and creepy and confusing people and makes them depressed and suicidal, like 50% of or 40% of transgenders are. So these people are evil.
Another integrated approach is through writing and language arts.
They're discussing.
Regardless of
This is just them discussing strategies on how to indoctrinate the kids into this lefty crap. This is so fucking terrible, dude. What the fuck? Girls should not be allowed to play on the football team. There are certain jobs that are just done better by men and women. Wow.
There are ways
Yeah. Is this like warning signs of like problematic blah blah blah?
in which gender can be brought as a possible topic of the writing students are doing. So too with social studies, as gender impacts a wide range of areas that social studies covers. Science is another way in which you can use gender to help explain topics that you're certain to be reviewing with your students. Even in math, you can come up with story problems and other examples that demonstrate a greater understanding and appreciation for gender diversity.
Whoops.
And finally, almost any other area as well can benefit from the use of gender.
So they're using math to promote gender ideology. They're just peppering it into literally every subject. This is
as
fucking
a lens
crazy.
on your instructional strategy.
So this should be the lens through which we look at everything.
Becoming
literally
a
everything.
gender-inclusive
2 plus 2
doesn't
equals
happen by accident.
Zers
A
in.
growing number of schools are making great strides in being intentional with their approaches to being more gender inclusive. And sometimes it can feel overwhelming. We want to encourage you that taking action doesn't mean that you have to do everything. It does mean
Except
that
watch
you
a
do
propaganda
something,
video series.
And the framework for gender inclusive schools can be a great roadmap for helping you get there.
Oh, this sucks. Man, imagine being just not down with this ideology at all. And again, this is not the only video or book that he's forced to imbibe. This dude, just because he suggested something correct. Yeah, absolutely do not email bomb this or prank phone call this number. Absolutely do not do that, because that would be a systematic system of phagmophobia or something. Yeah, I just wanted to go over that for a little bit. This teacher has to undergo like some lefty re-education. These people should have to undergo a re-education, as far as I'm concerned. Like, just basic common sense and basic biology is something that these people and basic linguistics is something that these people need to have a little crash course on for like 1 to 4 years, work release in some sort of facility. But yeah, fuck these people.
Nothing